What's going on, everybody? This is Dr. Chris Featherstone here for yet another episode of Unscripted. Listen, it's Tuesday night. You know what that means. I have some of the biggest, the baddest, the best wrestlers of today and yesteryear. And guess what? This night is no different. You know what, man? This guy is a very snarky guy, but I like snarky guys, man. I have a thing for snarky guys. And guess what? This guy is not, he's really established himself as a really a larger than life, small in stature but big in heart, and that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. He is a former Ring of Honor world champion, if I'm not mistaken. I followed him all through his Ring of Honor career. If I'm not mistaken, I'm a bit of a wrestling historian. He is the first two-time Ring of Honor champion, if I'm not mistaken, and he's also a three-time Impact World Champion. He is Austin Aries. How are you tonight, my man?
Good, Chris. How's it going?
Good. Was I right on the stat?
Yeah, you were right on the stat, and you're right on the snark. Yeah.
Yes. I like. You know what, man? I'm a snarky guy too, man. So it's all it all fits, man. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Just sipping on some watermelon juice here, and yeah.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
Watermelon juice, very nice. Is it just you just blend watermelon or what?
Yeah, literally just so I decided to do like a 24-hour watermelon like juice fast today, just to kind of reset the metabolism and kind of detox a little bit. So yeah. Just threw watermelon in the old Vitamix with some lime juice, and It's delicious.
Ooh, can I copy?
Yeah, please do. Please
do. Very
Yeah.
nice, man. I like that. That's awesome. Before we get into the questions, man, what are you up to? Plug whatever you got going on nowadays, man.
I mean, not a lot to plug, man. I've been living down in Mexico all year, just training and doing a lot of beach time and just trying to enjoy life. Things have gotten a little weird over the last year and a half, and how quickly things can change. And I just been really focusing on myself and my own happiness and mental health and physical health. And I stepped away from wrestling for a little bit, but now I'm gearing up to get back in it. And life is good.
Nice. Yeah, mental health's a trigger for me. I'm a therapist. So
okay, that's I see. I was going to ask what you're a doctor in. So.
Yeah, psychology. Yeah, I'm a psychology doctor. Yeah, so I'm a therapist. I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm the guy who sits in the chair and across the street from across the room from someone who sits on or lays on the sofa. And so when you said mental health, you get a hearty amen from me with that when it comes to that, man. So I'm all for that. So
that was actually my major in college was also psychology. I didn't get through though, but
my master's is in psychology. My PhD is in forensic psychology. So nice. I decided to go the courts route. It's interesting, Austin, because I'm actually getting my third master's. I only have 3 classes left, and criminal justice with a specialization in behavioral sciences. And so I might gravitate toward more the criminology standpoint because I get fascinated within criminology and stuff like that. So I think I want to do that for more consulting. But right now as a therapist, I absolutely love it. I love my job. So it's very exhausting. It's very taxing. I literally have to deal with people's negative complaining and dealing with like serious issues that's been uncovered for so long. You know what I mean? And so I really have to navigate through that. But I always tell my clients, I thank them and I say, hey, thank you for coming to my office because everybody has problems and you decided to be strong enough to admit yours. So
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Cool, man. You ready to get into these questions?
Let's do it. Here we go.
All right, man. Let's go into Guillermo. Why did WWE keep you exclusively on 205 and not make you compete for the other championships or against other superstars above the 205 pounds limit?
Guillermo, that would be a question for WWE. I'm not really too sure. To be fair, I wasn't there a long time, so maybe that was something that would have happened down the road. I think initially that they were really they wanted to kind of really develop the 205 brand, and they wanted to have some name value there, and I was happy to be a part of that. There are a lot of great talent, and who knows, if I would have stuck around longer, maybe eventually I would have transitioned elsewhere.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, you were on the pre-show at WrestleMania. Was it
33.
that was the one in Orlando, right?
Yeah.
That was against, was it Neville that you went
Yep.
against? Yeah,
It
okay,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was there. So it was interesting. I think I was rooting for you, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I appreciate it. It's pretty
No
good,
problem.
but thanks.
You know what's interesting, because I mean I like PAC too, but I was like, I think this is the moment. I think this is when you make the decision to give Aries the title. But how come they didn't? From what you understand, was there any rhyme or reason why they didn't put the belt on you at that time, or what?
I really don't know. I felt like everything there a lot of times is a test. You never know exactly what the test is or what the right answer is. But I think a lot of times, there's, I really don't know. From the outside looking in, just as a fan, you have the babyface chasing the heel champion, and you would think that this is going to be the time where he's going to overcome the hurdle. And they had me as a babyface fail like 3 times in a row, which again, just from the outside looking in, that's hard for babyface to overcome that. So I really thought that was going to lead to a heel turn for me. But they wanted to keep me on the babyface side, which I didn't feel like I had a lot of value left to give at that point. So, but yeah, again, those are decisions that are made in rooms that I'm not in. So I have no idea what the reason was behind it.
Sure. And now, you know what, that was my logic of the reason why I wanted you to. I thought you were going to win. Actually, I'm usually pretty good at my predictions, just because I understand. I've been watching wrestling for 35 years, and I kind of understand like usually the person who gets the one up. The one up right before the pay-per-view usually is the one who lose, and just a little nuances as far as like the matches going into the pay-per-view. And you were chasing, and it just made sense. It was WrestleMania, it was the culmination. Baby faces usually gets the chase, comeuppance, and it just made sense for you to win.
And I don't remember the rest of the card. Maybe they had other title changes that night. They didn't want to do a bunch of them all in the same night to kind of give it away to keep some history there. But yeah, I don't know.
I think Ambrose went against Corbin for the Intercontinental Championship on the pre-show too, if I'm not mistaken, that year. So, and I don't think that changed. So yeah, it was interesting. Speaking of championships, before Kenny Omega, the belt collector was this guy right here. I was holding 6 championships at the same time. How did it happen?
It was heavy. It was a little tedious getting through the airport, if I'm being honest. How did it happen? It really just happened organically. I know some people like to think that I demanded you put the title on me or I'm not going to wrestle for you. But listen, at the time I was coming off WWE TV and so I was a hot commodity. Yeah. And I don't remember exactly what the first one was. But I had places that I was going in, smaller independent promotions that saw value in putting the title on me to kind of, put some spotlight on their company. And I think I was doing a lot of work over in the UK, and there came a point where Marty Scurll had one of the titles for one of these companies, and he wanted to drop it because he had some other commitments with New Japan at the time, and so I already had 2 at the time, and I said, well, now if I get this third one, it kind of becomes a thing, and so I said, well, I'll just start carrying these around. And then what really cemented it is when Impact called and kind of, offered an opportunity there and what they wanted to do with me. I said, well, this would kind of legitimize it even more so. And kind of a cool thing for these smaller independent companies to get their titles on television a little bit and just give them a little bit of shine. So, for me, it was all about trying to help the companies out and just kind of, give them a little bit of spotlight while I was a hot name. And for me, the whole thing, it's, and I know people might find this hard to believe, but it's always about being able to give it back at the end, right? You know, the more value you're given, and obviously a title gives you value. For me as a heel, the more I can get under people's skin, the more, the more I can make them hate me, is when I finally do the job, and I finally give it back. It can mean that much more. And honestly, my favorite matches during that whole time was when I lost those titles to whoever they were building in these companies, because it meant so much more to these people. This guy walking around with all these titles and thinking he's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
And when he finally loses, it really meant something. And like my match with Shane Strickland was off the hook. We swerved them thinking that he'd beat me.
We swerved to them,
right? Thinking that he'd won the Impact title, and then we kind of like did a dusty, but then when he beat me the following month or whatever, and won back the Defy Championship, like the crowd was just red hot. So I had a lot of fun, after coming out of WWE, where you don't necessarily have a lot of creative freedom, some that's kind of taken from you. To have that back and be able to kind of weave all these different stories and have all these great matches was a lot of fun. That was one of my favorite years of wrestling, 2018. Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. What's something about you, Austin, is that one thing, I'm a traditional wrestling fan. I'm an 80s traditional, old school, I appreciate and I say this, I have a couple shows with Vince Russo every week here on Sports Kita. And I talk about it like all the time. I am a like tried and true old school type of fan, and I love the fact that you were a true heel. Like you were one of those people who like it challenged you even more when you saw like cheers in the crowd. You know what I mean? Like if you're a heel, you're a heel. You're a true heel. You want to be disliked. What's your take on like the dynamic of what we see nowadays is that there's a lot of heels that aren't really true heels, and even though they get cheered, they don't really try to do anything about it.
Well, so here's the thing I've learned about this. Things change, cultures change, the business has changed. When I broke in, I was trained by Eddie Sharkey, which is as old school as it gets, and so the mentality was really for me was when I walked out the door in the morning, I had to assume the role, right? And so, and even when the show was done, if I was in the bar afterwards, or if a fan saw me at a gas station, I would give them a little bit of that heel character. I wanted them to believe.
Yeah.
But in culture now, that doesn't really work, because unfortunately that gets you labeled, and people, for as much as they know wrestling isn't real, people started to think that Dan Sowald was this asshole that Austin Aries was portraying every time they'd meet me, And so I think nowadays it's difficult. We've kind of broken the fourth wall. We've peeled the curtain back. And I don't know that it really does anyone favors to kind of keep this persona to really make people believe, because once they really believe, it kind of colors your reputation a little bit in some ways. Yeah. So we kind of have to like turn it off and go, hey, I'm just kidding. I'm not really that guy. I'm your friend. But I think as an old school wrestling fan like you are, like the magic is in making people believe, even though they know it's not real. We know magic isn't real, but magicians don't stand on stage and kind of tongue in cheek their acts, because people might get offended that he's sawing the lady in half.
Right.
And kind of had to do that a little bit. And again, I'm not going to criticize. Things change, but I'm with you. I grew up watching 80s wrestling where I really believed. And so I carry some of that with me, and I'll probably have to adjust now as I continue on in this, because it doesn't necessarily serve you as much as it used to.
I think that's a good point. It's interesting because even the dynamic of wrestling outside of like life outside of wrestling, it is difficult to adjust, but it's possible. For instance, like someone like I heard that MJF was a pretty cool dude, but he's arguably the best heel in all of professional wrestling because he's that old school, Nick Bockwinkel type of, love, just really just aristocratic, just guy, love to hate him. I'm buddies with Christopher Daniels, and he was such an amazing heel. but just one of the nicest guys, outside of professional wrestling. Just a really cool. The same thing. I'm friends with Lance Archer too. I mean, just a tried and true heel, but just a really really nice guy. Outside of wrestling. So, I think it's a challenge for characters. Just to continue to now you could before you could take the character with you. Now the challenge now is to continue the character on TV, but not take it with you as much. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
right.
I said,
And then also like, being careful not to step on certain lines, because we're really into feelings now. And if you hurt someone's feelings, that can literally, again, we talk about the cancel culture. It's a real thing, right? And so as a guy who's trying to offend people and get under your skin, it's hard now to gauge like exactly where that is. If I really offend you, and so it's a slippery slope, and it's delicate. It's not easy.
It has to be difficult because it's like, I want to say, because you have to go on the fly. You have to really have that, that improvisation, and like you want to say something, but you're like, I'm really going to get heat if I say this, but no, and you're thinking about that all in your head too.
I mean, I can give you an example, and it was the Christy Hemme situation that happened at TNA, and this was something that it was on the fly moment. She just made a mistake in the ring announcing, but as a heel, I'm offended and I'm upset that she announced this as the wrong names. And so I'm in my head just trying to think of, well, let's do something with this. And so I backed her in the corner and I made her say it right. And I stood on the middle ropes and did my pose like I always did. And, but eventually it turned into like, he sexually harassed her and it was like, well, and people were legitimately upset online, but my thought at the time was, well, I'm a bad guy doing a bad guy thing. Like they shouldn't like that. Like it wasn't a good thing to do. But it wasn't Dan doing it to Christy backstage and reprimanding her. This was a heel character doing a bad guy thing. And again, that, people took offense online and started to make a lot of noise, and it got recharacterized into something it wasn't. And, that's something that's kind of stuck with me all these years, and people still make comments about it. And, it's unfortunate because you're doing something in the spur of the moment of improv. Me and her had no issues. We had a great talk afterwards. There was no, we're professional. We're, good as colleagues. But the perception sometimes becomes the story,
And you're the villain though. Like you want to get the heat because at the end of the day, you're passing the heat out to make the good guy look better. And
that moment was to kind of like take it off of her and kind of put it on myself a little bit. It was a quick 2-3 second interaction that turned and like took this life of its own. And that was where I kind of learned like, oh, things are changing here because, if people get really offended and upset and they make enough noise about it, now these companies feel like they have to address it. They can't just go, there's no smoke, there's no fire. That they were acting. They felt like they had to kind of address it, and they wanted me to make a public apology. And I'm like, well, why would I apologize for, like I was a bad, like it was very confusing to me at the time, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. I wasn't seeing how things were changing, and it bit me in the ass a little bit.
Sam is asking, who is your favorite manager when you're a fan?
Bobby Heenan, hands down. Yep. There's a lot of good ones, but Bobby Heenan is the man.
Yeah. Tucker's giving one of your gimmicks there, greatest man ever lived. Where'd that originate from? What was
the Weezer song?
Okay.
And I was, at the Ring of Honor at the time, and I was really thinking about, changing the character up and going heel. And it's so hard. It was so hard to be a heel in Ring of Honor. So I thought, well, I'm going to really change his character. I'm thinking like nobody can cheer for a guy who calls himself the greatest man that ever lived. Like that's like the most obnoxious thing you could call yourself. And so I just kind of adopted this persona, and I stopped doing a lot of the more flashy stuff that they knew I could do. And I figured that was now the babyface's job to do. And I played a little bit more of a chicken shit type of heel, and just to try to change the character up a little bit. Because before that, I was the wrestling machine and the work rate guy. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go heel, like let's dial it back and do something different.
Very nice. Ricky's asking, where do you see yourself in 2022?
Oh man, probably still here in Mexico. I take some trips back to the U.S. I don't know. I'd like to get back in the wrestling scene in a meaningful way. And, but right now there's so much talent out there and a lot of guys and girls are looking for work. There's only so many spots, so we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Are there any promotions in like AAA or anything like that you're interested in going in? Or
I haven't really explored too much, because I really came down here not with wrestling in mind. It was kind of more of a spiritual, personal journey when I came down here,
okay.
To kind of disconnect from wrestling for a while. And
right.
But yeah, I haven't really reached out to anything down here. I wrestled in Mexico once back in like 2005, and I got my fill. It was good. It was an experience.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So AAA is in Mexico, and then the what is it? The Colognes is in Puerto Rico, right?
They're in Puerto Rico.
What's the federation? What's their Colognes?
It's not IWA, is it? No, that's
no.
That's Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'm sure the chat knows. And so, have you ever wrestled a Triple Mania?
I have not. I have not wrestled a Triple Mania. Maybe I could do a pre-show there some year. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So
they have a pre-show Triple Mania.
I think so.
Okay,
so, yeah.
great.
World Wrestling Council.
There's my snarkiness for you.
Yeah, there you go. Another Mania pre-show.
Yeah, right?
You're the greatest man that ever lived at the Mania pre-shows. There you go.
Yeah.
Whatever Mania, you should that's your new gimmick. Whatever Mania it is, like if it's wherever city it is, whatever, you just show up.
That's it. So. I'm ready for the pre-show.
That's right.
Yeah. I want to make sure everyone's in their seats ahead of time. Put me on the pre-show.
There you go.
Sitting down, paying attention.
What was it? Texas, Dallas at 32 that had some entry issues, and it was like barely anybody during the Ryback and Kalisto match. It was barely anybody there. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's why me and PAC, we took credit. We said, "See, look, we had a full boat. We got
there you go
this year because everyone they didn't want to miss the best match on the card. They knew it was going on first, so we get there early."
Very true. Reese was asking, why do you think WWE released so many superstars lately?
I mean, I would imagine, it's it always comes down to money at the end of the day, and they're a publicly traded company, and so they're looking at the bottom line. I think, and here's an interesting theory I have also, is if you look at the old Monday Night Wars, what shifted the tide was when WWE released a lot of their guys and WCW snapped them up and paid them big contracts. Yeah. And then WWE was forced to make new stars. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder now if they're releasing a lot of these big names to see if, AEW picks these guys up and kind of oversaturates their company, oversaturates their payroll. Mm-hmm. And in some ways try to, go back to that playbook they used back during the Monday Night Wars, because when you release all these talented people, like of course, other companies are going to be interested. It also, in some ways, it drives the overall market down. There's more now supply than demand, which means that guys and girls can't maybe ask for the type of rates that they're used to asking for because there's so much more competition out there, and there's only so many spots to fill. Yeah,
interesting theory, man. Yeah, I can see something like that churn in the mind of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, and his colleagues. Yeah,
they haven't gotten their position by not being smart business people and thinking a few steps ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alan's asking, hey Austin, did WWE ever reach back to you after your second stint with Impact?
No, they did not. I think there was a wonderful experience there. I think we both got to see what the other had to offer, and I just don't think that's a bridge that'll be crossed again. Yeah, I don't personally really have any interest in going back there. So, and I'm sure that they probably don't have a lot of interest in bringing in a 43-year-old under 6 foot white guy at this point either. So,
yeah, it just seems like the relationship was just so. It is ended so abruptly. I mean, just what's your overall take on your WWE experience, and why were you let go?
Again, man, I was a little surprised at the time. That being said, I kind of felt the shift in, sometimes you're the popular kid, and I know Vince was really high on me. He was the one who put me in WrestleMania after hearing me on commentary. But then, these things can be fickle, and they can sour on you as fast as they like you, and you kind of feel the wind shift a little bit. So, there could have been a number of factors that played into it. I don't know. There was one. They didn't give me any reason. If I had any heat backstage, it wasn't anything I was aware of. I read reports the writers didn't like working with me, and and I could see that just because I'm someone who likes to give input. I'm also, I joke, I'm a why sir, not a yes sir. I like to know why I'm doing things. It helps me learn. It helps me grow. I don't just kind of, but sometimes in that setting when there's high pressure and there's so much turnaround, they don't maybe want a lot of questions asked. They want just good soldiers that just say yes sir and go do the job. And so, I know with the writers, they have a very difficult position. They're having to write a lot of stuff every week. Gets changed a lot, and then you come to a guy like me who wasn't really high up on the pecking order, and I start asking him about, maybe could we change this around, or the verbiage here? My character wouldn't really say it like this, and they're not in a position to just okay that. They have to go back and walk through the process and go back to Vince or whoever else. And I think that, while I wasn't trying to be a pain in their ass, I could see how maybe, they didn't look forward to that because it was a little more tedious than they wanted it to be. But I don't know. I'll just say I'm grateful for the experience. There was a point in my career where I didn't think that was really going to be in the cards for me. I was told I was too small. I was too old, a bunch of times over the years. And so by the time I actually got hired, I was okay with the fact that wasn't going to be part of my career. And the fact it was, and the fact that, I got to do commentary on live, Monday Night Raw. I mean, it was a great experience. I learned so much from Michael Cole and really enjoyed that a lot. And then, I did WrestleMania, in front of 70,000 people. You can call it the pre-show, the main show. And I really did that on my own merits. I didn't do it because I had anybody in the back pulling for me, or, I wasn't boys with anybody. I got over on my own on the microphone and earned that spot. And so I'm very proud of my time there. And I did a lot in 18 months. And I got an action figure, from them, and
there you go,
all the good stuff. So yeah, it was a good time.
Very nice. And now you get to chill in Mexico, sipping your watermelon juice,
That's
which I'm
right?
very intrigued in that watermelon juice, man.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah,
it's very high in glutathione, which is very, very good for us.
Okay,
amongst other things, and arginine too, which is good for the old.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I married and 3 kids, so I'm arginine. Ryan's asking the banana gimmick. I'm interested about that. Where'd that come from? Yeah.
So one thing with WWE that I noticed was like everything there is it's like, I want to say, maybe not over sanitized is the right word, but like everything has to have a reason. Like everything there, nothing's really off the cuff, at least when I was there. Like, with the writers, it was like either written in or it wasn't. So after an NXT match, they wanted to have me do a interview backstage right after my match. And so when I walked through the door after my match, I grabbed a water that was sitting there, and I grabbed a banana because they had they had some snacks and stuff right outside the curtain area because I was thirsty and I was a little hungry, and I'm a guy who just likes to do random stuff because I think that it adds just unpredictability and like freshness to it. Right. And so it doesn't have to be so sterile. Yeah. So when I went back to do the interview, I threw the water down and I kept the banana. I was like, I'm just going to do it with the banana. So the writers asked me like, are you going to do that interview with the banana in your hand? And I was like, yeah, why not? I'm like, well, why? I was like, well, because it's right after my match and I grabbed a banana to eat. And they're like, well, are you going to say anything about the banana? I was like, I mean, I wasn't going to, but like, do you want me to? They're like, all right, we'll just do one. So I do the first promo with the banana, and I'm just kind of waving around talking, not mentioning it. And then my outline, I said, if you excuse me, Dasha, I'm going to go replenish my potassium. And I walked off, and they're like, okay. So then like, all right, we'll just do another one, without the banana. And I'm like, okay, no problem. But I know how this works. Like they're going to take that. They're going to take that, that take. They're not going to take the banana. So I do that promo, and I end that one with, now, if you excuse me, I'm going to go, I got a bushel of bananas back there. I'm going to go replenish my potassium. And the writers are like, well, if you're going to say something about the banana, then why don't you have the banana? I said, that's a good point. So I grabbed the banana. I did the third one.
Very nice.
But now as we're watching them back and they're watching the different takes, they can't stop giggling and laughing. And I said, guys, that was the point. Like there didn't need to be a point. Like the whole point was sometimes just random stuff. Now you're asking a question. Why the banana? Now we have intrigue. In a show where we give them every answer at the end of the hour or at the end of the week or at the end of the pay-per-view, sometimes you don't need to give them the answer for something because it keeps them intrigued. I want to know why. And even to this day, we have people ask me now, why the banana? Yes, that's what I answer. Why the banana? Yes. So when I started doing commentary, I got, my eye hole broken, disappeared for a while. And so my first night when I came back on commentary, I decided that instead of wearing a pocket square in my suit coat, I put a banana in there. And nobody really noticed because if you're not really looking, it just looks like a piece of color. So now I'm sitting there in commentary with a banana in my pocket and Michael Cole's busting out laughing. Like when people started to realize what it was funny. And I was like, this is something. And I remember pitching to Vince this idea of we can sell protected banana cases. These things will cost like a penny to make, right? They're a little phallic, which would be good for. But I was like, we can sell these things because nobody likes a smushed banana, right? So I was thinking of because sometimes it doesn't have to be like a big explanation or reason, and so it was just something that was impromptu that kind of just took a life of its own, and so I just started doing the banana thing because again. Sometimes it's those silly things that all of a sudden, they get some legs to them, they become something. So I figured, I like bananas, I always travel bananas. They're good to eat. They're handy. Who doesn't like a good banana? So that's it. I mean, there really wasn't a big reason for it, but now you know.
I love it. That's hilarious. Nice and innovative there. All right. One more question here. There's a lot here. I'm trying to get one more good one for you. Ring of Honor. If the company makes a comeback, they're expected to make a comeback. They're just going to take a hiatus after a final battle. So, from what I heard, they're planning a relaunch in April. So, would you go to Ring of Honor if they make a comeback?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually, having some indirect contact about possibly doing some stuff there before this was all announced. I think they decided not to really bring, obviously, any more talent in for the rest of the year because they knew it was happening. But there were some things there that interested me, some guys there that I had some interest in working with. I had a guy reach out to me who was interested in maybe doing a program. So, it's a place. I got a lot of history there. I owe a lot to Ring of Honor for just really being the place where I made my name and kind of making me a star in the independent scene and being able to use that to catapult myself. So, I love to go back there. Lots changed over the years, but it's still, if you're going to look back, it's kind of in some ways the ECW of this generation. If you look how, again, not maybe stylistically, but at the time it was really cutting edge. The style that they were using, it was different. But if you go back and look at all the guys that came through the doors there and what they went on to do, just have had a huge impact on the industry as a whole. And they kind of have that very passionate fan base, now that they've been around for a while. So I hope they do come back in April. And if they do, I'd certainly be interested to come back and do something.
Very nice. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I have an interesting 30-second challenge for you. Ready?
Okay.
All right. 5 words or less. I'm gonna do a lightning round. All right.
All right.
5 words or less. All right. 30 seconds. You ready?
Yep.
Curtis, what's the best match you were involved in?
Boy, Brian Kendrick, heel versus heel, pro wrestling gorilla.
Okay. Alan, what's the difference between working with Triple H and Vince McMahon?
Accessibility.
Okay. Riju, would you return for a Royal Rumble appearance?
Yes.
All right. Derek, why do you think WWE is so restrictive when it comes to creative?
Their formula, it works.
Alan, are you a fan of Roman Reigns' heel gimmick?
Yes.
Christopher, what are your thoughts on AEW and would you ever work there?
It's awesome and absolutely.
Riju, what do you think of Enzo Amore becoming the champ?
Good for him.
Cool. Last one. Who's your favorite heel currently of all time?
Austin Aries. And of all time, I'm gonna go with Bobby Heenan.
Okay, very nice. Cool, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate you coming through. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter, which is a cesspool at Austin Aries. And I'm on Instagram where you'll get more pictures of my food and my day-to-day life. That's Austin Healy Aries. And you can get my book, Food Fight, at ProWrestlingTees.com.
Very nice. Austin,
right.
it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show tonight.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
You
Take
too.
care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye-bye.